The Aeldari have always caught my eye, but I've never picked them up. However, the Phoenix Lords look so appealing to collect and paint that I've given in to temptation, and picked up Asurmen, Lhykhis, and Fuegan. Being the leaders of their chosen warrior aspects, I want these minis to look their best. You might be thinking, hey Dan, you're going to need to pull off some hard techniques to achieve this. Well, thankfully, with contrast paint, achieving hard-looking effects is easy. They range from solid, opaque colours that quickly base coat your models, to transparent ones that tint sections, further enhancing your paint schemes. So join me on this journey as we paint these minis using contrast paints to see what neat effects can be achieved with them. The list of all the paints to use is on screen now, and I've organised the paints by miniature for ease. There are a fair few paints used throughout this tutorial, and we've got you covered with a complete paint list for each in the description below. These techniques can be used with any colour of your choosing, so feel free to swap out any of these paints for ones you prefer to try out. Additionally, here's all the extra tools we've used in this video. If you're new to painting and want to know more about the paints and techniques used, check out our Painting Essentials playlist on our channel. To keep the colours bright, I've undercoated Grey Seer on Asurmen and Lhykhis, which will help the cooler paint schemes. I've kept the cape off Asurmen to make sure it's completely painted. Wraithbone has been applied to the headless Fuegan for the warmer oranges, leaving his head separate to paint it with ease. Starting with the paint named after him, Asurmen Blue will give a bright blaze to Asurmen's armour. I'm using the paint directly from the pot and controlling the amount on the brush with a palette. Then working in sections help avoid the paint blotching and ensures an even spread of paint, leaving more pigment in areas where shadows will naturally occur. Leave this to dry and apply a second layer to fill in the colour. If parts look a little patchy, I've found dabbing the paint, like this, builds up the colour where needed, creating a clean, pre-shaded finish ready for highlighting. I've added a few edge highlights with Baharroth Blue to sharpen the base coats, letting the details pop. Doing this helps push the faint highlights the contrast paint has already left, as seen here, finishing off with some dot highlights of Ulthuan Grey. To tie in all the highlights, thinning Asurmen Blue with contrast medium or water will make the paints more translucent, letting more of the original colour come through. Both are fine to use, but I've used contrast medium here. Adding 2 drops of contrast medium gives me a lighter colour that's perfect for building up layers, like this, to make a gradient of colour from light to dark. Add 4 drops or more, and you're in shade territory, which opens up a whole new world of painting potential. Lhykhis has an amazing sculpt, and having a jump out the mini warp rift is really cool. I want her legs to still be materialising, and contrast paint is going to make that really easy. I've painted black Templar over the areas of her armour, except for the knees and the lower leg. This allows me to apply Aethermatic Blue over those areas and the rift underneath to create a nice energy effect. Painting the feet and the rift together will enhance the overall look. Now that we have this slightly glowy base, it needs some extra impact. And thinned down Kroxigor Scales will achieve just that, applying a full coat over the Aethermatic Blue. Leave this to dry and then we can play around with blending the colours together. Building up the colour will require a little less paint on the brush, removing any excess off onto a palette until you've got around this much on the bristles. The legs will need a transition from the black armour. Pulling the paint up towards the leg towards the knee is an excellent way to create a gradient. Due to the transparency, these layers blend colours effortlessly. As you move up the leg, apply these thin layers on top of each other until you achieve the desired effect. Now it's time to get the black Templar to do the same thing, focusing on the knee pads to transition the 2 colours together. Building it up in layers and bish bash bosh, the leg is completely blended into the warp rift, leaving you with an ethereal energy glow that can be dry brushed with Ulthuan Grey, bringing the whole effect together. I'll also edge highlight the rest of her armour with Ulthuan Grey for an additional highlighting effect. Once these are done, a thin layer of Kroxigor Scales all over the armour will change the highlights to match the overall glowy blue scheme. And if the dry brushing on the warp rift looks a little dusty, a thinned down layer all over those areas will fix them up easily. Feel free to change Kroxigor Scales to any similar colour in the range, as they will do the same thing, just shifting the tones slightly depending on your choice. My favourite thing about painting is making it my own, and experimenting with new techniques. The best way to learn if something works is by applying it to a mini and giving it a try. And with that, I present to you the Test Mini. Having a similar mini next to me, like my little Aeldari Scorpion friend, was really handy trying out things before committing paint to the leaders. For Fuegan's bright orange scheme, the super opaque Magmadroth Flame is calling me for the go-to paint to block in the armour quickly. Laying down a strong foundation in one coat is a dream when it comes to this notoriously hard colour to work with. To keep things looking hot, I've thinned down Blood Angel's Red to a shade consistency and applied it all over the orange. Adding this light but bright red colour helps deepen the recesses while keeping the colours vibrant, which I love about these paints. His helmet is a deeper red than the rest of the armour, featuring a nice gradient that darkens towards the top. So let's give this a go with a few well-placed layers of paint, plus a little help with gravity. Firstly, we need to prepare the area, as getting a smooth blend on a large flat surface like this can be difficult. I find dampening the area with water before applying the thin layers of Blood Angel's Red towards the top of the helmet will stop any harsh dry lines, allowing the paint to disperse around those areas more effectively. After the first layer of Blood Angel's Red has dried, repeat this until you're happy with the result. Holding the head upside down like this, while dabbing more paint towards the ends will help the paint pool towards the top of the helmet, leaving an effortless blend of colour. Finish this off with a layer of brown paint of your choice. I use Cygor Brown, but any will work. Dab the paint onto the ends of the helmet like this, letting the paint pool in those areas for a darker colour. We can then wrap this up with a speedy dry brush of Trollslayer Orange over the armour and an edge highlight around the helmet, followed by Fire Dragon Bright, bringing out the best of this flashy armour. So I've painted all the armour and things are looking great. And now let's paint in the details like the guns, weapons and symbols across the minis, blocking them in black and repainting anything else in the original undercoat, in preparation for other contrast paints. For the black, look no further than Black Legion. Looking at Asurmen's plumage on the box, it has these blocked out sections that can be painted now, along with his shuriken pistols while we're here too. Moving to Fuegan's fire pike, along with any areas across the three that will be metallic. This paint covers nearly anything in just one coat, leaving a strong black surface to work on. So I'm being extra careful around the armour, as I don't want to accidentally get any of this paint on those areas. However, if there is any overspill, like what's happened here on Fuegan's leg, I'll repaint those areas with the original undercoat colour, while I'm cleaning up any of the other parts on the model. Then, in this instance, reapplying Magmadroth Flame will make it look like the spill was never there. After their cleanups, these three lords are taking shape. Now their armour is painted, I can focus on the details like capes. Everybody loves a cape, and Asurmen has a pretty decent one too. I plan to enhance the shadows and the folds by using Flesh Tearer's Red. I'll apply this by pulling it from the top to the bottom, and the viscosity of the paint lets the brush glide off the cape. It'll also look good on random pieces of cloth across Asurmen and Fuegan, so let's add a bit on those too. This colour is another one of my personal favourites, with a deep, rich red colour that covers beautifully what's not to love. When dry, I'm picking out Baal Red to go over the whole cloak, blocking in the grey quickly thanks to how opaque it is. Better still, the Flesh Tearer's Red shading has come through into the folds, thanks to this quick two-step technique. After using the Baal Red, it looks to me like a solid colour that will also block in Asurmen's helmet and the warp generator on Lhykhis' back. I'll then thin down Flesh Tearer's Red to create a shade, and once applied and dried, it will tone down the bright Baal Red, bringing out all the details. I'm stoked. The cape has come out better than expected, using the qualities of these paints in my favour to create a velvety feel to the cloth, plus a smooth finish to the extra armour panels. This feels like a good time to add Retributor Armour, Iron Hand Steel, and Runelord Brass to various parts of the miniatures, along with any gemstones with Grey Seer to paint later. Before we get to those, I'll thin down Skeleton Horde to go over any of the unpainted cloth, and the helmet's face places on the trio, with this no-nonsense shade mix that can also be painted over the basing details and metal across the models. I mean, any contrast paint could. Take Cygor Brown, thin this down into a shade and it looks brilliant over Retributor Armour and Runelord Brass. For Lhykhis, a layer of Aethermatic Blue on the mandibles of her helmet greatly enhances the silver. And if you'd like to learn more about coloured metallics, we have a video all about it on our channel. Followed by, let's go with Dreadful Visage, as it's a super translucent paint that needs no thinning and leaves a lush, purpley grey finish to the hair. As I have 3 miniatures at my disposal, I can try out a few different paints for the leather straps and rocky base details. Asurmen has taken up the mantle of Cygor Brown. Garaghak Seer is in Lhykhis' corner, and for Fuegan, Snakebite Leather. With the browns applied to the leathers and stone, it's hard to choose a favourite. What I do love is how contrast paints can be used as shades to tint metallics, resulting in a unique appearance for armours and weapons. Another great way I use these paints is for creating a quick and easy power sword effect, which I'll show you now. To base the swords, Aethermatic Blue is the ideal starting point, resulting in a beautiful pale electric blue. From here, I can go anywhere. So I've decided to try Luxion Purple for Asurmen's sword to try something a little new. And to keep with the theme, I've chosen Kroxigor Scales for Lhykhis. Building up that colour on either side by either pulling the paint or dabbing it on towards either the tip or the hilt of the sword. And after a few layers, each getting closer to each end, I'll have a set of sleek swords. I almost exclusively use contrast paints to paint power weapons these days, and we have you covered if you want to try out some different colours in this handy video. The finishing move is the highlight of White Scar at the end, which just seals the deal. A useful tip for applying contrast paints on spirit stones and gemstones is to add a small white line just along the bottom of the grey Seer. Then at this point, it's a question of colour. I'm using Aeldari Emerald, Doomfire Magenta, Ork Flesh and Talassar Blue to create some variety, but feel free to be as wild and try out any colour combinations you like. The same principles applies to painting eyes. Simply paint the area with a light colour and fill it in with any contrast paint of your choice. It's that simple. After dotting white into the top corners of the gems and eyes, leaving us with one extra thing to do. The 2 banners. So sit back and enjoy whilst I paint these using the techniques used in this video. Finally, the banners are complete. These 3 mighty lords of the Aeldari are fighting fit and ready to get stuck into the fray. I'm so happy with how these models have turned out. Applying contrast paints in various ways and laying them up has allowed me to create some beautiful colour schemes and achieve easy effects. My favourites include the glowing effect on Lhykhis' legs and the simple cape shading I achieved by using Flesh Terror's Red and Baal Red. With 3 Phoenix Lords under my belt, it's given me the bug to collect them all. But which one should I get next? Anywho, for more painting videos, head over to our YouTube channel. Or if you'd like more hands-on help, you can pop into one of our Warhammer stores, where our friendly staff will be happy to help. Thanks for watching, ciao for now, and see you in the next one.